In the last segment and in this segment, we're going to be talking and have been talking about the commutation of Roger Stone's sentence by the President of the United States that most of the American public is very well aware of. But what most of the public is not aware of is what has happened in Roger Stone's life spiritually, that the media has said virtually nothing about. In fact, during the break, we were conversing a little bit, and Gary Dole said it and said it well. The media is trying to make this guy to look like he's some kind of a monster, which they are expert at doing. But what they will not talk about is what God has done in his life and what God is doing in Roger Stone's life. Well, here to help us know more about that, the Hope Beyond the Headlines, is Frank Shelton. Frank, again, I want to thank you for being on the program. You helped facilitate a meeting between Roger and Franklin Graham, and you commented at some point that Franklin was able, in fact, he was absolutely delighted to carve out some time to meet with Roger Stone. I think, if I understand correctly, and you can correct my statement if it's wrong, I think it was about 10 minutes that they spent together. And if you can share what you know about that, what you can share about that, and then we'll move forward a little more with this amazing, amazing story about what God's doing in Roger Stone's life.
Yeah, and praise the Lord, because all glory to him. But back in the fall, Dave, of 2019, I got a call from my friend Randy, and he said, Frank, are you still with the Grahams? And I said, no, I'm not officially on the payroll, but we're still very much connected, and we help each other on projects and stay in the loop. And they said, well, here's the deal. Roger really would like to go to one of Franklin's Sunshine State tours with the Decision American Florida. And I was familiar with Roger, and I also knew the way the FBI treated him, and 24 people show up in the middle of the night, helicopters hovering live on CNN. And he said, is there any way you could connect him with Franklin at the event? Well, we've been in ministry long enough, Dave, you and I both, to know that sometimes these unique requests come in. But I'm thinking of, I just did a podcast on a hinge. The hinge on the door is not usually seen, but the door doesn't open without the hinge. And whether it's a janitor's closet or a hinge on the Oval Office, just because it's behind the scenes doesn't mean it doesn't have value. And I felt like the Lord said, Frank, I need you to be a hinge today. And so I didn't want to shoot it down. And then, the Grahams are just impeccable with integrity. And I knew the way Dr. Graham had really reached out not only to the powerful and the prominent, but sometimes those who are down and out and everyone in between. So I said, well, let me see what I can do. I was told to over-deliver and under-promise. And I reached out to my former superior with the Grahams, shared the vision, and said, this needs to at least be at y'all's attention. You prayerfully make a decision, but I don't want to say it shouldn't happen just because either I was lazy or didn't try. I felt like God was in it. And to the Grahams' credit, within a business day, I got the call that, yes, from Franklin's staff member, that he'll give Roger 10 minutes privately on the tour bus before the event. And I thought, praise the Lord. So Franklin was with him on the bus, loved on him, encouraged him, prayed with him. And then they get off the bus, the praise music starts, the event starts. And that night, Randy texted me a picture. It just thrilled my heart, brought tears to my eyes. It was Roger Stone with his hands towards heaven in the middle of the crowd, just like anyone else, and with tears rolling down his face. And Randy called me as he left, and this said a lot about them. I was just really trying to be helpful. And he said, Frank, it was amazing. Yes, Franklin couldn't have been any kinder. He gave us 10 minutes, but Roger publicly made a profession to Christ. So when you asked me in the first question, Roger actually said that he had made some type of commitment years past, but it just really went to a whole nother level when it looked like his back was against the wall. He was really reaching for God to do a move. And yes, Franklin ended up sending him the Bible, but this is what touched my heart, Dave and Gary. So it was awful kind of Randy to call leaving. They were as high as a kite spiritually, just so excited. And they didn't have to thank me, but that also said a lot about them. They were thankful for the one to make the connection and said, man, it was amazing. And by the way, Roger's in my passenger seat. He wants to speak to you. So then that's the first time I started talking to Roger. I had 10 to 12 minutes with him that night. Just told him he made the greatest decision of his life. just press into God. We don't know what's going to happen, but I do know this. God is in control. And just chase God, not only in this season, but for the rest of your life. God will never fail you. He will never let you down. Cling to Jesus. And so ever since then, that's when we caught up and I was invited to have dinner. And I thought that said a lot about Roger. You know, it wasn't like, hey, I met someone, you know, we just move on with our life. He also generally wanted, not only told me thanks on the phone, he wanted to thank me at dinner. And I thought that was very big of a guy that was facing the trial of his life. He wanted to say thanks to me. So that should tell a lot of our listeners where Roger was at and what type of person he is. So I was just glad by connecting him with the Grahams. He heard the gospel, and most importantly, I'd like to think he's closer to God than ever before, and we should just continue to pray for Roger. And his wife was there, and she was lovely. And, you know, I just believe these are the type of people God's looking for. And if we can't get excited about someone else finding grace, mercy, pardon, commutation, salvation, however you want to say it, if we can't be thankful that someone else has it, we need to take an inventory to see if we authentically have it ourselves, because it never gets old when someone else gets saved.